From the subreddit TwoXChromosomes. So we can claim self-defense for abortions now, right? I was just thinking to myself how it's so acceptable to use lethal force in the US as long as you feared for your life. Fetuses are a more direct threat to life than many of these situations. These guys shouldn't be against us defending ourselves and our literal castle, bodies, from invasion. We even have more than a few cops who have shot kids for no reason, so being a minor should not have any bearing. But since our legal system has a penis, it's not the same. Fucking assholes. Well, the murder rate per 100,000 is 14.4 in the US. As of 2021, if the death rate per 100,000 live births is higher, it is, someone posted it's about 17, then abortions technically should be self-defense, depending on how much your lawyer costs, as you stand a greater chance of being killed by a fetus tearing its way out of you than some random person / nearest and dearest. It was wild to me all these years watching people in abortion threads argue over pointless things like personhood or whether a woman was responsible. When really, even if we deem the woman irresponsible or the fetus a fully sentient being at conception, it's not, then it still wouldn't matter because of simple autonomy and consent concepts, whether it's a baby or not. A promiscuous woman or a married monogamous woman. Accidental pregnancy or intentional. Whether the baby could grow up to cure cancer or be an average Joe. She still owns her fucking body. The fetus has no autonomy because it lives off of her. She takes priority. Trying to force women to carry to term is assault. Slow clap, seriously. This is spot on. And if they say, well, you chose to have sex, we can say, well, Rittenhouse chose to go to Kenosha with a gun, woman shrugging. Our lives don't matter. How can they matter in a country where a 15-year-old rape victim has less rights than the clump of cells in her body put there by her pedophile pastor? In some states, the parents can consent for her rapist to marry her, erasing the assault. How could our lives be said to matter at all? How about even letting women who had to, or were able to, kill their abusers out of prison? How come self-defense is only an argument made on behalf of the worst that society has to offer? It's complete insanity to keep acting as if actions exist in vacuums. If it's okay for Kyle, it should be alright for Helen Naslund and then the countless others forced to live with their abusers. I am actually completely on your side, but I imagine they would say something along the lines of, since the birth mortality rate is 17 deaths out of every 100,000 pregnancies in the United States, the risk of death is extremely low. They would probably argue then that the risk of pregnancy is not high enough to create a reasonable fear of a threat to the pregnant person's life. My wife just made a great point too I never considered. Unless you consider a fetus an autonomous being, how are you defending yourself? If it's part of your own autonomy, it's not self-defense. What a train wreck this space is. The lethality seems to be too low, 17 100,000s, but possibly you could do it in stand your ground states. You can forcibly expel an invader. Or in the duty to retreat states, you leave the fetus behind as you leave. The US law system is so weird that this self-defense versus fetus would be seriously considered. Edit, the thread below seems to open the following conclusion. Eminent Reddit lawyering says you can counterattack and kill your fetus under legitimate defense laws to protect yourself from grievous bodily harm, invasion of your legal space and likely cesarean stabbing. Don't use an illegal weapon while at it, nor breach any other laws. You're welcome. The bill is in the mail. Note, the above does not constitute nor can it be construed as legitimate legal advice. Any questions should be referred to a lawyer licensed in your area of residence. Hey, if someone starts kicking you, that's assault and you have a right to defend yourself. Unfortunately, it is up to the judge and a lot of them are. How do I put it? Trump voters. Nah, the self-defense thing is just a bullshit circle jerk to support people with guns killing unarmed people. Abortion is about controlling women. Unless you plan on blasting the fetus with a gun, they won't be even remotely interested in your self-defense claim. I get that your post is tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is no matter how much sense the logic makes, it won't matter to them. Notice how they rarely agree with the victim of abuse when they kill the abuser in their sleep or something like that. Like most things, they only like self-defense when it's in their favor. They don't want women or children to be able to justify killing them in self-defense when they're abusive and violent, because then they aren't in control anymore. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a joke or not. Wow, I love this argument with respect to castle doctrine and stand your ground laws. That's really not how self-defense works, no. I've never heard this take before, kudos. I hope somebody actually uses this in court, Not a lawyer, so this is purely based on my own naivety, but I think there's a chance it could maybe hold up and set a precedent. This is an interesting idea. My guess is it would fall short under the reasonable fear of death or bodily harm part. Not because it doesn't happen, but because for the most part birth doesn't generally cause death or grave bodily harm. The odds of death due to pregnancy, managed normally, are relatively low when compared to, say, the odds of death someone is running at you with a gun pointed at your head. The fact that abortion is illegal in some places blows my fucking mind. As a dude, I just get pissed off at pro-life people who think their idea of moral/right has to be forced on everyone else. You don't want one, don't get one. Sure, but you have to use a gun to defend yourself. /s. That is an absolutely amazing argument. I had previously been favoring the Satanists, but I like this one a lot more. I appreciate the intent here, but to connect the two in a way that would actually work for most anti-abortion peps, you'd need Olympic-level mental gymnastics. In all honesty, both the gun and abortion debates are really just people not understanding the concept of bodily autonomy. Hopefully you don't have to shoot yourself in the process. You can logically extend it even further. Stand my ground laws which apply to penises approaching your body. Your Honor, I had to rip his dick and balls off, flinch the skin and fat off of him, and string his entrails across my front lawn. I was standing my ground. I 100% support abortion, and your analogy is spot on with cases of rape or similar coercive acts that lead to conception. But as it's been alluded to, you probably wouldn't have grounds for self-defense with willfully performing acts that could lead to getting pregnant. I know some are using the Kyle example, but the fact they couldn't prove his intent to pick a fight that he got off without charges. If they could prove he went with an intent to incite violence, they would have has a case. Essentially the closest example I could think of that's comparable is having sex while intoxicated. Rape, obviously not your choice to commit sexual acts, sober, can't really argue your actions didn't contribute to a child. Being intoxicated though, I could see an argument there wasn't a cognizant decision to risk a child. More of a thought okay ops post from a light legal perspective than anything else. Even if I couldn't support an abortion in my own life, it's 100% a woman's choice and right.